Hey, hey, hey. Let me make sure do I have myself updated? Let me go back. Oh yeah, I think I do. There we go. But I'll make sure I have myself updated here. Hey y'all, what's going on? Give some time to come in. I hope all is well today. Um, Today we are talking about managing stress, which we could all use right now. Let me turn this down a little bit. Um, yeah, which we could all use right now. Based off of the poll, actually, let me go back to the poll, and we still landed on managing stress as being number one. So I won't change that, but let me see where we're actually at. I believe we're at, yeah, so managing stress was at 45%, shifting our mindset was at 27%, and work-life balance was at 18%, and self-care was at 9%. But I did also get a request in the comments for self-care. So what we'll do is we'll do all four. We'll start this week with managing stress. We'll talk about that today, and then we'll do shifting our mindset next week, then work-life balance, then self-care. We're just doing it in the order of the poll. But thank you all for who voted to pick a topic. Hey, Shaphonia, welcome in. So since it was so split and everybody had like what they wanted, we'll just do all four over the next 4 weeks. And then we'll do a new poll at the end of that. So thank you all for voting. But today, managing stress. I have 7 affirmations for today. I have a few things that I want to make sure that we understand before we go into the affirmations. But yeah, this live is every Monday at 8 p.m. Central Standard Time. If you don't know me yet, my name is Debbie. Hey, Hiru, welcome in. Thank you for coming back. My name is Debbie. I'm a certified meditation coach and current therapy grad student. So this is what I guess qualifies me to some extent in having these conversations. So if this is your first time, that's what this is, all things mental health. The actual channel is meditation channel. So lives are on Mondays and meditations are posted on Saturdays. And yeah, let's dive into managing stress, y'all, because listen, this is stress, okay? Got some things that I'm stressed about. But I want to kind of talk about a few points before we go through the affirmations. And one of the points that I think that we don't really think about when it comes to stress is that not all stress is bad, right? I think when we think of stress, it's automatically like a negative thing. And one thing to remember is that not all stress is bad. Chronic stress is what's bad. Long, chronic stress that lasts, that lingers, that overwhelms, that impacts our day to day is what is unhealthy and what can be damaging. So one thing I want to do is just, even before I say that, is to define what stress is. So stress is a state of worry or mental tension caused by a difficult situation or a stressor or trigger, right? Now this also includes overstimulation and sometimes are just our nervous system being overwhelmed. So a lot of times it's not even directly in regards to a particular situation or something specific. It's more so of just life in general and an overstimulation of what's happening at any given day. Hi Mercedes, hi Julie, welcome in. We're talking about managing stress today. So yeah, so just understanding that stress doesn't have to be tied to a specific event. It doesn't necessarily have to be tied to a specific situation or trauma. like life itself is stressful. Okay, like it's stressful. Zachary, I start college in 13 days. Listen, as a graduate student, I don't know if you're doing undergrad or graduate or doctorate or PhD or anything like that, but stress is coming. Okay, so this is a good thing that that you're in this live and having this conversation. But like I was alluding to before, not all stress is bad, right? So, of course, chronic stress can be harmful to our day to day life, but short term stress can be beneficial. It actually enhances our performance, it gives us more motivation, it helps us respond to challenges effectively, it helps us to respond with urgency and with passion and with strategy. It makes us think through things a little bit more. It creates sometimes can create an environment of healthy competition. So it's not, I don't want us to think of stress as all things bad, because some temporary stress can actually be beneficial in our lives. Is when it actually turns into chronic situations, whether it be extreme anxiety or extreme worry, or anxiousness, as well as evolving into like PTSD. And those are more so related to situational stressors, or like acute stress disorder, which is what is the first stage of PTSD. So acute stress disorder is what happens after a specific event or trauma or stressor takes place. It's short term, it comes and goes, whereas PTSD is chronic. So that's long term disorder that's associated with stress. So keep that in mind. That's the first thing I want us to recall or remember in regards to stress. Okay, undergrad. Well, congratulations in starting your undergrad. That's amazing. And even though stressors will come, you'll be able to manage it. And it's going to take a lot of resilience and perseverance, and it's going to take that time, right? So kudos to you for pursuing that. And I hope this live is helpful in figuring out some ways to help mitigate the stress that will come your way. Awesome. So that was the first point. Second point I want you to understand about stress is that we actually limit the causes of stress to one particular thing or one particular area of our lives. And because we limit what stress looks like, it sneaks up on us in other ways. So sometimes we underestimate what brings us stress and we don't realize it until it's too late. So when it comes to stress, it's not just having this one cookie cutter depiction of what stress is. It's more so of being aware of your own personal triggers and stressors and having something in place to help mitigate those things. Because what stresses me out may not stress you out, right? It all looks different just depending on our own backgrounds and histories and our own personal traumas and triggers and our life experiences and environments. There's so many things that goes into what stresses one person out versus the other. So keep that in mind, that stress can come from many different ways and it looks different for everyone. So that's point number 2. Point number 3 is stress doesn't just affect us mentally, but also physically, right? So stress has its physical effects, whether it be like headaches or migraines, muscle tensions, fatigues, changes in our sleep patterns. It can also impact our immune system, our cardiovascular health, as well as our digestive system. So also take into consideration what stress is doing to you physically. Do you find yourself sick often? Do you also find yourself at the doctor's a lot with different ailments that you can't pinpoint what they are? A lot of times it's stress. A lot of times you'll go in and you'll talk to your doctor. You're like, hey, are you stressed? What's going on? Because I don't see anything wrong. So taking into consideration of that, but then taking that even further is that stress impacts our nervous system. So we have our parasympathetic and our sympathetic nervous systems. And when it comes to stress, it affects those systems. So it will activate one or shut down the other. And what you want to do is just make sure that we're not going into fight or flight mode. We're not at burnout. We're not at any status of us just being really overstimulated to where we can't function, and then we're kind of like emotionally paralyzed in a way. So thinking about all of those things when it comes to our stressors and how it doesn't just affect us mentally, but also physically. And then the last point I want to make before we go into the affirmations is stress is not a sign of weakness. I think sometimes when we see stress that comes up in our lives, we end up thinking of it being more so of a weakness versus it just being an indicator that we need to make a change, right? Or an indicator that we have to take action on something. So just understanding that our own perceptions of stress can cause even more stress, right? So just because how we look at the stress that's in our lives, how we view it can actually create even more stress and bring on even more stress into our lives. And so when we feel stress, we often equate it to inadequacy, right? Or we often equate it to us just not being at our best selves. And that's not necessarily the case. Again, it may be more so of it being an indicator that I need to do something or I need to take action on something. And yeah, stress is just a simple, common human experience, and it doesn't mean that you're weak. It doesn't mean that you're inadequate. It doesn't mean that that you're not enough. It just means that this is a message to my body and to myself that something is happening and I need to address it. Okay? So those are all of the points I wanted to make on stress. So what we'll do is we'll dive into the affirmations. So there are 7 affirmations. You can use these affirmations however you wish to. Feel free to write them down, whether you are journaling, putting them on sticky notes, if you're posting them, if you're recording them, if you're just going to say them in the morning, if you need to change the language, feel free to do any of that and use them however you wish to. If you haven't already, make sure to like the live. If you haven't subscribed, make sure to subscribe. I was looking for my music. I didn't know what happened to the music. There it goes. Yeah, make sure to subscribe if you haven't already. Make sure to like the live and talk back to me, y'all. Like, make sure this is very interactive conversation. Feel free to ask questions if you need me to repeat anything, have any comments or anything that you want to add. Feel free to do so, and we will dive in. Affirmation number 1. I focus my energy on what I can control and let go of irrelevant issues. I focus my energy on what I can control and let go of irrelevant issues. I'll say that a third time. I focus my energy on what I can control and let go of irrelevant issues. So when it comes to stress, and if you find yourself in a stressful state often, start with what you're giving your most energy to, right? Start with the stressors that you give your energy to, that you may be putting on yourself. Sometimes there's a lot of stress that we're experiencing because of our own thoughts and because of our own perceptions. And really taking the time to evaluate what is actually stressing you out. A lot of times when you get down to the nitty-gritty of it, it's not anything that you can control. It's not anything that's even huge. It's just that we've blown it up to this big balloon of an issue when it really wasn't that. It's a lot of times our perceptions, our own stressors, our own traumas, our own ideologies, it's our own thought processes versus it being the actual reality of what's happening. So when I say focus, I focus my energy on what I can control and let go of the irrelevant issues. Take the time to notice anything that's stressing you out that you cannot control. If it's something that you can't control, what can't you control? You can't control other people. You can't control other people's actions, their thoughts, what they say. You can't control any of that. So if any of that is creating a stress, that's something that we have to let go. What are other things that we can't control? situations that we find ourselves in that we couldn't do anything about. It's just something that just kind of came and fell into our lap. We can't necessarily stress about the fact that it fell into our lap. What we have to do is shift our energy to, what are solutions? How can I fix this? But then you have to also take into consideration that sometimes we stress over the fix. How can I fix this situation? How can I fix this person? How can I fix this environment? And a lot of times those things are not in our power to fix. So then we therefore stress ourselves out because we're trying to fix something that we're not meant to fix. So think about those things that are in our lives that have us stressed out, that we put all of our energy into, but we know in the back of our minds that we cannot fix the issue, or we know that it's just out of our control and we have to allow all of the pieces to land where they're going to land. And I know that's easier said than done, but that's what causes a lot of our stress, is us trying to fix situations that we're not meant to fix. And we're trying to create these scenarios in our lives that is basically what's actually stressing us out. And once we start letting go of those things and being honest with ourselves about our reality and where we are with our environments and our situations and our relationships and friendships and all of these things, we're going to continue to stress ourselves out. A lot of the times we're stressing ourselves out because we're lying to ourselves. Point blank, sorry, just the messenger, y'all. Sorry. But a lot of times we are stressed because we are lying to ourselves. We are invested in the potential of a particular situation. And because of the situation not going the way that we think it should go or want it to go, instead of grieving that and letting it go, we try to force it and we try to fix it and we try to put all of our might in. Like, okay, if I show more initiative or I show more energy or if I put more emphasis into this, it will fix it. And a lot of the times we are stressing ourselves out. Now, on the other side of that, are there some instances where we're going to have to put a little bit more energy, we're going to have to put a little bit more drive, we're going to have to put in a little bit more resilience and effort? Absolutely. But put that effort and energy into things you can control, not into things that you can't control, right? So for example, if you're looking for a job, right? We sometimes put all of our eggs into one basket, and because that one basket is falling apart, we start to stress instead of the fact we can just go get more baskets. Right? We just go to Hobby Lobby, get some new baskets and start making it all nice and pretty it up and set it up and put all of our effort into making up that new basket. Just because the other basket is starting to fall apart, then we fall apart with the basket, right? So when it comes to that scenario of trying to find a job, what can you do? What work can you do that is productive, that moves you forward into finding a job? What can you control to make sure that you're setting yourself up and positioning yourself to find a new job, versus trying to control the fact that you lost a job, trying to find a way to go back, trying to call managers or call people that are there and trying to figure out a way to get back to where you were. So just really thinking about where you're pouring your energy, and if you're pouring your energy into a situation or a thing that you can't control, is that why you're stressed, right? And shifting your mindset into the areas of your life that you can control in regards to that situation will bring more confidence and will relieve the stress because of the fact that you're in control of that thing and you can see progress in that thing. So I hope that's helpful. It was long-winded, but I hope that was helpful in regards to that particular affirmation. I focus my energy on what I can control and let go of irrelevant issues. Number 2, I honor my limits and set boundaries that protect my peace. I honor my limits and set boundaries that protect my peace. I'll say that one more time. I honor my limits and set boundaries that protect my peace. Sometimes we are stressed because we lack boundaries. Point blank, period, right? And we have to take the time to identify what is stressing us out and make the changes needed. Again, honesty and self-awareness. So understand that when it comes to our stressors, a lot of times it's because we've lacked setting a boundary. Whether we've lacked setting a boundary with someone else, or we lacked setting a boundary for ourselves. Or we may have set the boundaries, but we keep going past the boundary that we set for ourselves. So understand that when it comes to these stressors, honoring your limits and honoring your boundaries is what's most important. And if you find yourself stressed often, it's probably because there's a boundary that's been passed somewhere, whether it be by somebody else or by yourself. That was number 2. Number 3, I prioritize my rest and am calm, peaceful, and centered. I prioritize my rest and am calm, peaceful, and centered. I'll say that again. I prioritize my rest and am calm, peaceful, and centered. Sometimes when it comes to stress, it's because we are lacking proper sleep. We're not getting any rest. We're stressed because we're tired. And when you're tired, you're heavily fatigued. You're more irritable. Your attention span is short. Your patience is short. It's hard for you to even digest new information, so it's easier to be overstimulated. You may make irrational decisions when you're tired, and because you're making irrational decisions, and those decisions aren't the right decisions, those wrong decisions stress you out. But if you were well rested, you were in a better state of mind, you may not have made that decision that you made, and then therefore you would be stressed, right? So understanding how important rest is and getting your rest every night. Now I know they say like primarily you should have 8 hours of rest, but I know that in some instances they say 6 hours of rest at least. 6 to 8 hours of rest a night is important. Because when you have your rest, what happens when you're rested? Your body heals itself. Your body starts to take care of itself. Your digestive system kind of calms down. You have so many different attributes or so many different things that happens when you're rested and when you're sleeping, that if you're not getting proper rest, your body isn't functioning properly. And if your body isn't functioning properly, it's easier for you to be stressed. Right? You'll get stressed more quickly. So understanding your rest, taking that in consideration, making rest a priority, and understanding rest is just as productive as your day-to-day productivity. So just taking that all into consideration, you know? What is one of the things that your parents used to tell you when you were younger? When you were all upset or frustrated or mad, they're just like, go take a nap. Same thing when we're adults, right? Go take a nap, rest up. And then when you wake up, then you'll have a clearer mind, a clearer head in regards to making a decision. And just understanding like, you know what, right now I'm overstimulated, I'm stressed, I don't feel like myself. Let me take a quick 10, 15, 20 minute, 30 minute nap and then make a decision after I wake up. Prioritizing rest, okay? That's important. That was number 3. Number 4, I am competent and capable of handling challenges with grace and ease. I am competent and capable of handling challenges with grace and ease. I'll say that one more time. I am competent and capable of handling challenges with grace and ease. All right. I'm actually going to partner that with number 5 because like they all kind of go in together. So that was I am competent and capable of handling challenges with grace and ease. And number 5 is I forgive myself for any mistakes and move forward with confidence. I forgive myself for any mistakes and move forward with confidence. I forgive myself for any mistakes and move forward with confidence. I just grouped those two together because a lot of times we create stress because we don't trust ourselves. We don't trust ourselves, and because we don't trust ourselves, a lot of that has to do with unforgiveness that we have in our hearts for ourselves. So if there's things that's happened in the past that we've done and that same type of scenario comes up again, we don't trust ourselves to make the right decision. So then that creates the stress, right? Because we're like, okay, I want to make sure that I make the right decision this time. I want to make sure that this time around that I've learned the lesson, and that in itself can create a stress. So I grouped that together to remind us to say, we are competent, we are capable of handling the challenges with the right mindset, with grace and with ease. And we also forgive ourselves for the mistakes that we made in order to move forward with confidence. In order to make those decisions, the right decisions, we can move forward with confidence and knowing that we are capable and that we are competent. We've learned our lesson, right? So I see that, I would say that also comes up a lot or often with people who have had checkered past, whether it be you have a traumatic childhood, or you struggled with addiction, or you had an abusive background, or you had got arrested for something, or you did something illegal, whatever. Understanding that you can learn from that situation, you can forgive yourself for that mistake, and then you can take whatever you learned from that and apply that to the future. But also taking it a step further and then now not allowing those things to stress you when these new situations come up. So I am competent and capable of handling challenges with grace and ease, and I forgive myself for any mistakes and move forward with confidence. That's why I kind of wanted to group that together. Let me make sure I didn't miss anything. I just said, well, you haven't forgiven ourselves of our past, so it creates stress for our now and our future. So yeah, so just understanding that we have to let some things go in order for us to help manage the stress that we currently have. Because our stress a lot of times is going to be linked to those past situations, or those past hurts that we've experienced, traumas, or experiences that we had. That was number 5. Yes, that was number 5. So number 6. I am in tune with my needs and take the required steps to meet them. I am in tune with my needs and take the required steps to meet them. I am in tune with my needs and take the required steps to meet them. A lot of times we are struggling with stress because we don't acknowledge our needs, we don't know our needs, we don't know, and it kind of goes back to like our limitations, right, or our boundaries. We don't know what our needs are, or we just don't acknowledge them, or even think about them, right? Sometimes we just kind of think about what other people need versus what we need. So understand that you have to be tuned in to what your needs are in order for you to manage your stress. Because if you're not tuned into that, it just gives us a unsettled and unstable situation of living, and without us understanding, having that self-awareness, as well as just that understanding of what's happening around us and what we need and what's and that's not even just like our goals, right? Because sometimes I think when people think about needs, they kind of think of goals versus it being more so of what do I need? What does my soul need? What does my heart crave? What is it that I need in order to go from a day-to-day basis to make sure that I relieve stress or prevent stress from coming into my life? It's more so of a matter of balancing the stress relief and the stress prevention. I think sometimes we just focus on the relief and don't even think about the prevention. In order to think about the prevention, we have to understand our needs. So be self-aware, know and understanding what happens in your mind and body when you are stressed. So that's another thing. Understanding what happens physically when you're stressed. Take notice when self-care is needed, but sometimes it's not about self-care. It's simply about making better decisions, right? So a lot of times we're creating stress because of the decisions that we're making, and we're making the decisions that we're making is usually made because of perceived stress or stress that we are thinking that could or may happen. So just thinking about our decision-making processes is important when it comes to managing stress, because a lot of times we bring it on ourselves because of the things that we are doing. And when we're thinking about self-care in regards to stress, self-care when in regards to stress is linked to self-discipline. And when it comes to self-discipline, that's the greatest source of self-love and self-care. Because if the more disciplined we are, the more we will have in regards to our self-worth, our self-awareness, our self-love, our self-care. Like, everything goes back to self-discipline and self-awareness. Because once we have those things, everything else will fall into place. If we're disciplined in ourself and in who we are, then it will make it much easier to be disciplined in our care, to be disciplined in our awareness, to be disciplined in our love, to be disciplined in all of these different things and our worth. Once self-discipline is in place, everything else will kind of fall into place. And that goes back to decisions. It goes back to our needs. It all is linked in together. So understanding that we need to know what our needs are emotionally, physically, spiritually, all of those things. And once we understand our needs, we can put those boundaries and limitations in place. And once we put those boundaries and limitations in place, then our stress won't go away, but it will subside, or at least eliminate the unnecessary stresses that we have in our lives. That was number 6. And number 7 is the last one. Let me just make sure. Oh, number 7 is I am stronger than I am stronger than any anxiety and choose thoughts that support my well-being. I am stronger than any anxiety and choose thoughts that support my well-being. I am stronger than any anxiety and choose thoughts that support my well-being. Understanding, and I think we talked about this last week when it comes to, like, we have the power, right? We have the power to override our stress. We have the power to override our anxieties. These are all things that just kind of come up into our thoughts. But we have the power to shift our mindset, to think positively, to think outside of the box, to think creatively. And we have the power to override it, right? So just like we talked about, we have to let go of the things that we can't control and focus our energy on what we can control. One of the things that we can control is our mindset. One of the things that we can control is to shift how we think about things and shift how we perceive things. And the way that we do that is by doing the self-work, by working on ourselves, working on our thought patterns, journaling, going to therapy, using mindfulness as a technique, using our breath work as a technique, really thinking about what we pull from for our strength. Now, granted, y'all already know I am a believer. So I pull my strength from God almost all not almost always. Always, always, always. So a lot of times, and that's like a lot of times it's my answer. I gotta pull it from God in order to have the strength. But we do have the strength within us to override these anxieties and these thought patterns, because a lot of times it's just a matter of us just shifting how we're thinking about a situation and seeing it from a different viewpoint. That makes all the difference. So that was number 7. I hope these were helpful. I'll go back to the top and go through all of them here. Number 1 was I focus my energy on what I can control and let go of irrelevant issues. Number 2, I honor my limits and set boundaries that protect my peace. Number 3, I prioritize my rest and am calm, peaceful, and centered. Number 4, I am competent and capable of handling challenges with grace and ease. Number 5, I forgive myself for any mistakes and move forward with confidence. Number 6, I am in tune with my needs and take the required steps to meet them. And then number 7, I am stronger than any anxiety and choose thoughts that support my well-being. I hope these were helpful, y'all. Definitely feel free to use these however you want to use them. And then next week we will be talking about, I forget which one it was, but next week was shifting our mindset. So shifting our mindset was the next one that was on the list. So I'll go ahead and move to that one. Then work-life balance, and then self-care. Again, I hope this is helpful. Be blessed, and I will see you all next week. Bye.